Hello and welcome to today's episode of Beyond the Broomstick, that podcast that opens up the opportunities and possibilities that spirituality can bring to you in your everyday life, as well as removing some of the woo that is the woo-woo that we see on social media. If we have not met before, my name is Matilda and I am a professional psychic medium here in Australia. I've been practicing for close to 20 years and have connected thousands and thousands of loved ones with their families from the afterlife. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the reality of working as a psychic medium looking for people that are missing, as opposed to what we do see on social media. We are going to talk about some past people that have talked about metaphysics. I was asked a question this week about Dolores Cannon and I answered it. Didn't go down too well with a couple of people, and I will give you my reasons for why I feel the way that I do. I'm going to talk about social media a little bit and what to really look out for in the ideal of a mediumship reading and a good medium. As always, at the end of this episode, I am going to give you some current predictions to look out for in the next month or so. But first of all, I would like to do my Patreon shout-outs. If you are not a member of my Patreon and have an interest, just pop along to the show notes. There'll be a link there that should take you to my Patreon page. On my Patreon page, it gives me a little bit more freedom than I have on social media. I upload extra predictions, there's videos, there's always my lives from TikTok when I remember to load them up. If you join Patreon as a paid member, there's a few different levels, but generally you get early access to my calendar. I am currently booked out until the end of June. July's appointments go live to the general public on the 1st of May. If you are a paid Patreon member, you will get early access to that about 48 hours beforehand. There are discount codes for special events. There's extra content, videos, predictions, there's extra podcasts, all of that sort of thing. So pop along to the show notes and take a look. So I'm going to give a shout out to my newest members of Patreon and a big thank you to all of my Patreon members. I am always in awe of the fact that people are willing to support me for extra content. Social media is hard. It's hard because basically there's some nasty people out there, and being able to freely speak on Patreon, especially, I take the words from Laurie Rivers. If you're going to troll me, you can pay me. That's not always the case, but yeah, I just social media disappoints me. Actually, no, the people on social media disappoint me. And I am going to actually talk about that in this episode because I think it's an important point to make. But first of all, big shout out to my newest members of Patreon: Sonia, Leslie, Sonia Freeman, Jennifer Pendleton, Pleasure O'Reilly, Ashleen McNally, Kristen, Heather, Shally Savia, Lisa, Jelena, Callie X, Courtney, Deb, A. Clayton 7601, Jess, Florida Blue, Tiffany Smith, Judy and Lisa. You guys rock. It's always amazing and I thank you all for your support. You are wonderful. So let's talk about missing people. It's one of the things that brought me to social media because my mind is blown by the amount of mediums that do whole videos or make it their life's work to talk and do investigations about missing people on social media. Now, Before I start, I understand the interest. There is always going to be public interest into cases that are confusing, cases that seem to be difficult. There's cases that people talk about that are missing children, etc. The reason I don't like it is I have at times worked with families and law enforcement agencies to help in the search for missing people. And I've had a lot of success, but it's never done in the way that it is shown on social media. As with many things, the reality next to the fantasy, and I'm going to say it's a fantasy for some people because they want to be of note, they want to feel worthy, and they want to be important. But it doesn't work that way. When I first came onto social media, which is a good 12 months ago, I came initially to not talk about the missing case of Nicola Bulley in the UK, but talk about the behaviour of the spiritual community with Nicola Bulley and the disgusting narrative that went on by all of them, whether they were accusing the husband, the kids, whether they were talking as if they were connected to Nicola herself and regurgitating information and saying things like she was attacked, she was in pain, she's still alive, but she's floating in the water, all sorts of things. The reality that a lot of people don't think about is that the audience, yes, are interested in that, and it will get you likes and follows without a doubt, because people are nosy and they like watching car crashes. But if you are spiritual in any way, shape or form, and sharing information that you believe to be correct that could be harmful to the family members or to the investigation, come to that, sending people untrained and unsupervised out to crime scenes, trying to make yourself important in a situation where the most important person in that situation is the missing person is not very spiritual. And I struggle with that. The reality of working on a missing persons case is incredibly, incredibly different. There is a rarity that the police will ever involve a psychic medium. It's just such a rarity. We will never in this world ever be asked to give evidence. So that's something to really hold close, that we give the pieces of a puzzle that we're receiving from our spirit guides, not the person that's missing. Can I just make that incredibly clear? If anyone is talking on social media as if they are linked in to the person that is missing, switch off, because they're not. It is the biggest load of bullshit waffle that I've ever heard in my life. I heard one person saying that a missing child, oh, he's taking me by the hand. We don't even know that boy's dead. Okay? His family are still holding on to hope that he is alive. If you go on social media and say, no, he's in spirit and he's taking me by my hand to lead me somewhere, you've got rocks in your head. Anyway, the reality of the situation is that we are sometimes contacted by family members, and the family member will come to us and say, often it's a referral, maybe a friend has had a reading, or they know of us, and there's a few of us that will do this. and we are asked if we can help. The first thing I do, and this may sound incredibly cruel, is I want that person that's contacted me to prove to me that they are a family member. They've got to issue me or show me a copy of the police report of the missing person, or they have to prove to me in some way that they are connected and a family member of the person that is missing. I am not going to be doing this in public for anyone, but I'm also not going to be contacted. And this has happened several times. It happened recently with a young girl sadly missing in South Africa, where I had 5 or 6 people claiming to be family members because they wanted information from me. And that is just not the way that we work. So I'll be contacted by a family member, or it could be the parents, the girlfriend, whoever. And I never charge because I earn enough in my life to be able to commit. I don't take on every case, but to commit time to giving information. And I will give them information that they have the opportunity then to pass on to whoever is investigating it. It's their choice to do that. And it's up to the police then to follow those leads. I'm going to give you an example of a case that I worked on. It's a number of years ago now. I'm not going to give identifying markers because it's obviously a difficult thing for families to be triggered about. But I am going to tell you what I said to, and it was the grandmother that contacted me. It wasn't the mother. And that was enough for me. Obviously, the mother was in quite a distressed state at the time. And I didn't do any identifying markers for the perpetrator. But the first thing I was able to say is, this child is still alive. And I was very clear on that. I said, I gave them a date around the time that I felt that the child would be found. I told them that they were taken for care, not to be abused, and that the police needed to look at a telephone or telephone information, and that the police needed to look in a certain area. I'm not going to give you the area because it may give away information about the case. And that was passed on. I didn't hear anything else. I didn't, because I don't need to. I did my part in the job and I handed over that information. About 6 months later, I knew that the child had been found because it was a national case. But about 6-8 months later, I had a phone call from another member of the family that talked about the issue, and I just said, oh, look, I just passed on the information. And they said it actually did go to the police and they did use some of it. They didn't use all of it, and I'm okay with that. I am not hands on the ground looking for people because I'm not a private investigator and I'm not a police officer. I also don't want to go into a crime scene and affect the crime scene. I will never talk about missing people, open cases on social media because that's not my thing. And I don't need that to build my business. I am busy enough. It's not something that I find is ethical, really, to talk about on social media. We're not a magazine. We're not gossip columnists. Unless we are actively helping either the police or the family, then what good are we actually doing in the case of a missing person? All we are doing is providing entertainment. And I don't need acknowledgement that I have found somebody or my information has gone towards finding someone. I know it has because I've had feedback over the years, but it's not my thing. I will always do it in the background. For me, I am put on this earth to help people. I have an ability Yeah, it's an ability. It's not a gift, it's an ability. The gift is in the delivery. And as a psychic medium, I am a server to the world. That means that I have to help people. How is making content and obsessing over getting kudos for things helping anybody? It's not. It's not spiritual either. And the reality of finding or helping find missing people, whether they are dead or alive, is that we give the clues, the pieces of the puzzle, and the information that we get from our spirit guides to those that do the hands-on work, and then we walk away and we go and help the next person. That's as simple and as easy an explanation as I can give you. We are not private investigators. We are not police enforcers. And we will never be asked to give evidence in a court of law. Now, I have in the past provided information to a private investigator, actually more than one, where they were then given the information from my spirit guides as where to find evidence. And once they found the evidence, they used that in court. But I will never be called. We are not that sort of people. I'm sorry, but we're not. No one's ever going to take us seriously when it comes to something like that. Or law enforcement judges, etc. The evidence that I provide is always to families or to other areas, police, etc., that will go and find the evidence. So, yeah, that's how missing people work works. If you are called, and as I say, I will never work for anyone unless they prove that they are a family member or they are law enforcement working on a case. It's just not done. So, I made a comment this week. Somebody asked me about Nostradamus, and I gave my point of view. If you haven't seen that, it is on my social media. Plus, I did talk about it with Laurie Rivers on the Sassy Seers, that I feel that everybody is trying to make the Nostradamus predictions fit for 2024, where I have always felt that it was pre-World War II. And I sort of brought that up with Laurie, not knowing a lot about astrology and knowing that Nostradamus was more of an astrologer than a seer. And he's really good at a lot of stuff, and I like his work, but I don't think the translation works. Ancient French is bloody hard to translate, and the quatrains I don't think have been translated very clearly. And Laurie sort of acknowledged and agreed with me about the astrology, because apparently, and as I say, I always take away, I'm not an astrologer. Apparently the astrology fits that time frame, and many of the predictions that everyone's going 2024, this, that, and the other, have all already happened pre and during the Second World War, and the astrology is very similar or identical. Then I got asked about Dolores Cannon. Now, if you have followed me or listened to my podcast for a long time, you will know my thoughts around the New Age, New World mentality. You will also know my thoughts about past life regression. I will explain that a little bit more, but I was asked about Dolores Cannon, and I don't like Dolores Cannon's work. I didn't know whether I liked her personally or not, but I don't like her work. It's a simple answer. She translated a lot of stuff from Nostradamus that I didn't believe in. She's a hypnotherapist, apparently, or was a hypnotherapist. She'd written a lot about past life regression. She'd written a lot about the New World and things that she'd picked up, and the New Earth, and aliens and etc. And all of this stuff She has decided that it is a reality because of people's past life regressions and her writings. Now, people may come at me as I've translated that wrong, but I don't like the work. It's not something I agree with. Spirituality is so fucking simple to understand. There's a lot of people walking around today claiming that they are spiritual. They're all over social media claiming that they are spiritual. They're all over the world saying, I believe in this and this is spiritual. This is going to happen and we're going to ascend to the 5D. The new earth is coming. I am the icon of spirituality. But you know what? None of them are fucking nice. If you are not essentially a nice person that is kind, that is thoughtful, that is genuine, that takes other people's concept of things, that takes other people's emotions into the way that you translate, the way that you speak, the way that you behave. If you cannot be a basic, kind, thoughtful human being, then you are not fucking spiritual. I do not care what you preach. I do not care what you say. But if you cannot show basic, decent, kind, and humanity, you are not spiritual. Simple as that. It is really simple. There's so many people walking around with this ideology and that ideology, and they are not kind. The same as many religions that claim Christianity is one of them. And I apologize if I offend anyone, but if you cannot show decent kindness to another human being, then you cannot claim to be a Christian. The same as you cannot claim to be spiritual. If you are using people, if you are abusing people, and if you are taking advantage of people, it is as simple as that. We want to live a spiritual life and we want to lift the collective energy. By being kind and decent to everyone, we will lift the collective energy. You do one thing on social media and behave in another way offline, you are going to be found out, not by your followers, but karma is a-coming. This is the time in the world when authenticity is important. We all need to be showing up authentically. Part of the reason why I've changed my voice on social media, when I first came to social media, that it was really important that I hide my identity for reasons that I have explained. I have a member of my family that works in a position that being connected to me may be quite tricky. I have clients that may not want to be known. I hid my identity. I wasn't staying on social media. It was just, I'm going to give it a go and give my opinion because people were pissing me off, but I wasn't staying. And now that I have decided to stay, and now that people have decided to have me there, I've decided to reveal my real self. Part of that is revealing my voice. And oh my gosh, did it cause a stir on social media. You will notice that I block people that are not behaving in a spiritual manner. I don't care if your opinion is different to mine. That's very, very different. But if you react or behave unspiritually, like, oh, I don't like your new voice, change it back. It's horrible. That's when you get blocked. Because if you followed me for 12 months, I do live, that's my real voice. I do readings, that's my real voice. I do events, that's my real voice. I have 2 podcasts, that's my real voice. Then if you are just a follower on social media that wants to say, oh, your voice is really yucky, then you're going to get blocked because you're not actually a real follower. And you certainly, when you make a comment like that on someone else's social media, are not spiritual. The reality of spirituality, as I have always said, will follow you forever. Your kindness, your empathy, your ability to understand the human condition and to have empathy and humanity. And humility is one of those. So if you come on my social media page and you make a nasty comment, whether it's about a person, a topic, me, you're going to get blocked. I got accused the other day on social media of having political bias. I really like watching you, but your political bias is disgusting. I don't actually have political bias, especially not in America. I get more juicy details from my spirit guides about Trump because he's got more juicy details to give me. I also need to calm those that are scared that he is going to be president again. It's part of the reason I'm here. So if you want to come on and accuse me of bias, especially within the United States political system that I don't understand I just don't understand it. Seriously, I don't. I don't want to either. I have asked questions and I'm still confused. Then you're not spiritual because you don't understand that the information I'm getting is from my spirit guides. So you get blocked. Start understanding that a medium on social media must remain ego-free. I do not like President Trump, ex-President Trump, the angry mango, Trumpy-dumpy, Humpty-Dumpty, whatever you want to call him. But I don't particularly like Joe Biden anymore. Do I think either of them are any good for the US? No, I don't. But I do get a lot of juicy details regarding Donald Trump. I have made predictions and talked about Joe Biden. It's just not as juicy because he's not currently in a court case or up for 100 different charges. But that is the bottom line of it. I can't hold any political bias because A, I can't vote in America, and B, I really don't care. I do not care who wins the election, but I care about my followers who care who win the election. There's a difference. And I care about what is right for this world. And if you're interested in finding out any more of that, there are some podcast episodes on my Patreon that talk a little bit more in depth about some infiltration that I have seen happening in the USA. So I've talked to you about Dolores Cannon. I've talked to you about missing people. This is something that I get asked a lot on social media as to what to look for in a decent medium. Now, there's only a few mediums, a handful of psychic mediums that I would ever recommend that I have watched. Pam Sears is one of them. Andy Ray is another one. John Edward is another one. Jonathan Louis is another one. That is 4. There's another lady whose name I cannot remember, but she's on social media as the Australian medium. I have invited her onto my podcast, but she hasn't answered my emails. But those are the ones that I would recommend that I have seen work. I prefer to see someone work and their energy before I will recommend them. But what to look out for in a good medium is they are not going to ask you anything prior to having a reading. So when I do a mediumship reading, I will say to people, look, I don't want to know anything. I'm going to see who I can bring through. Remember that the first person that steps forward often brings other people through, and they're going to give you evidence that they are around. They are going to talk about things like their life, who they were, how they passed, illnesses, hobbies. It will often be referring also to names, such as people that they want to acknowledge. It can be their children, it can be initials, it can be their grandchildren. They might acknowledge a new birth, they might acknowledge things that are happening around the person having the reading. If you want to see how I work, you can see I've been able to upload since I've come out, since you're getting my real voice and my real face, you will see some of the work that I have done in group readings on my TikTok page that show actual readings that I have performed and the evidence that comes through and how the person having the reading will acknowledge that person. How to prepare for your reading? It's really important to prepare by knowing information. So dates, names, family history a little bit, how somebody's passed, information about who got married to who, initials, just a little bit of family history, hobbies, that sort of thing. I am going to say that most people that have a reading with me are really well prepared, and it's amazing. I recently did a group reading, which you will see snippets of on social media, and they were just the most lovely group of people. It was one of my smaller groups, which is 10 people. Everybody gets a reading during those smaller groups, and you can ask lots of questions of me regarding spirituality and things like that. What I do want to say is, if you are looking for a medium, and I understand that I might not be everybody's cup of tea, you are drawn to the medium that is going to suit you the best. I always say, if you feel drawn to someone, that's who you should go with. So remember those names that I've given you. Find them on social media. They're all really good. Pam Sears is actually coming on next week's episode to talk about children and how they see spirit, and a book that she's written. So I'm very excited about that. But really think about who you were drawn to and the evidence that they give you. And that is really important. And I get asked all the time about, what if my loved ones don't speak English? It's fine. As long as you speak and understand English, it's fine. Because when I do a reading for me, and I can only talk about me as a reader, when I do a reading for someone, I can talk really quickly, because when spirit come through, they come through really fast. And they will, if somebody doesn't speak English or didn't speak English on the earth, they will work with me with things that I know. So for instance, part of the reason I'm so good at picking up names or associations or jobs and things like that is because I'm shown them in my head. I've talked about this before, but in my head, I have this constant screen, like a television. Okay, so imagine when you're walking around the house every day and you've just got the television in the background and you've just got it turned down because it's there for company. But as soon as you sit down to watch your TV show, you'll turn the volume up, the brightness, the vision will get brighter, and you will be focused on that television. It's the same for me. I have this going on in my head all the time. So if somebody doesn't speak English, they will often work in pictures and images. It will be people and things that I know, and if I don't know it, they'll move on to pop culture, that sort of thing. So I get the information through feeling, through hearing, and through vision. And if somebody that's passed doesn't speak English, they often let me know that, and I will get the information through to you without a problem. I don't often get the names. If somebody is not, I suppose if they don't have like an Anglo-Saxon name, those are ones that I struggle with. So for instance, if somebody's got a name like Andrew, I will want to say Anne. So it could be, is somebody Andrew, Andrea, Andre, that sort of thing. If somebody is Valerie, I'll want to go Va. That's how I am made to say things. So take that on board, and remember that loved ones will come through no matter what their language, because the language of a medium is very different than the spoken word. So I hope that helps. I wanted to just give a bit of a shout out. I've got a few events coming up that are both with myself and Laurie Rivers. So for me, I've got this great event. It's on the 4th of May. It is a large mediumship live reading. It is at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, and it's basically a demonstration. Not everyone's going to get a reading. It's going to be very much spirit-led for that event, and it's only $40, which I think US terms is about $22. Yeah, it's at a difficult time for you guys, but it's a once opportunity. The next event I run, which will be in a couple of months, I'll run at a time that is a bit more suitable for the US. So snap up your tickets. It's basically a demonstration of how I work. You'll be able to watch other mediumship events. Other people have mediumship readings if you don't get one yourself. Obviously, with a large group, it is, I'm only going to have time to do about 8 or 10 readings, but there is an opportunity for you to get a reading. The other event I'm running is on the 13th of May and that is a 10-person mediumship event. Everyone gets a reading. I do answer spiritual questions as well. And that is, I can't remember how much that is, but again, it's 90 minutes. If you want to see what it's like to attend one of those, there are clippets of my last 10 event reading on social media, so pop along to my TikTok and you will see that. But my group events are a really good opportunity for you to see how I work, see if you like me, before you book a full-on mediumship event. Remember, I'm really hard to get into. I only release so many appointments on the 1st of every month, and I am currently booked until the end of June, so the next opportunity is going to be July. So if you want to take that chance and just pay the $40 for a large event, pop along and book your seat now. It's also my birthday on the 4th of May, so we're going to have fun. The other events that I'm doing is with the Sassy Seers, that is with Laurie Rivers. We have 2 events booked. One for the 3rd of May in the US, Europe. It will be the morning of the 4th in Australia. And the other one is is on the 5th, I think. But you can find that by looking at my my Patreon page, and I'm going to add it today to my own website. Sorry, I am actually, rather than pause the thing, I'm going to read out what we're going to be talking about. We are going to be making events for May, June, somewhere into July. We're going to be looking at public figures. So what will happen is Laurie will pull up the chart and I will make predictions. We will both make predictions, because sometimes what will happen is Laurie will pull up a chart and I'll go, oh yeah, this is happening, and she'll drill down on it, and then I'll be able to give more information. Or I will say what's happening in Ireland around this date, and she will be able to pull up the chart for Ireland and say, oh, it looks like it's this in this area, and I'll be able to drill down. So they're really uncanny and very good predictions. We're looking at things like Taylor Swift, Netanyahu, Putin, Biden, King Charles, Princess Anne, Rishi Sunak, Trump, MTG, and much more. Climate emergencies, tornadoes, hurricanes, droughts, crops and food supply, earthquakes, and areas of the world: England, France, Ireland, Germany, Russia, USA, London, Paris, New York City, Los Angeles, Vegas, the Middle East, and much more. So it's going to be really interesting. Those times that I gave you, May the 3rd at 5 p.m. PST, which is May the 4th, 10 a.m. Australian time, or Australian Eastern Standard Time, sorry. May the 5th at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, which is 12 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So get along to our Patreon pages to book your seats. They are going to go really, really quickly. And I'm going to add a link onto my website when I have finished recording. That is all the information I have for you today. I'm going to jump in and do the predictions that I want you to look out for the next couple of weeks. And that'll be it for today. So what I've gotten from my guides for the next couple of weeks is it is going to be a bumpy ride as we go to the end of April and early May. That's going to include quite a lot of natural disasters, which I don't like talking about. I don't like putting fear in people's minds, but look out for torrential rain in areas of Australia. I'm really drawn, and I did say this last week, I think, Queensland, which I've just seen has got a bit of a rain bomb coming. I feel like there's something coming off the coast of Darwin that is really important to look out for. And will include, and when I talk about off the coast of Darwin, I'm talking about around Papua New Guinea, that sort of area, sort of north of Darwin, underwater earthquakes, because they will trigger tsunami warnings. I don't necessarily see a tsunami, but I feel like there's something coming in that Darwin area. Across the rest of the world, I'm going to talk about Trump for a second. First of all, he's not going to get immunity for his part in the insurrection that happened on January the 6th. There will be other charges coming regarding January the 6th to other people. I feel like that's pretty close as well. I feel like he's going to be in the news a lot. Do not be surprised if the judge asks for him to be removed from the courtroom and kept in a separate place rather than actually being in the courtroom. There's something around that. I also feel that he is going to be held in contempt more than once because he just doesn't listen. And I did speak about this on my social media, that I believe that he is showing significant signs of dementia. And yes, I know that Joe Biden is also showing signs of age, but I don't think that Joe Biden actually has dementia. I feel like he may be having mini strokes, but I am not entirely sure. There's something with it with Joe Biden. It's both of them are suffering from age-related things. I am being shown that there is going to be an announcement of a significant Hollywood couple that announced their divorce, and it will come as a complete shock. It's not one that's in the gossips at the moment. More stuff coming for the royal family. Andrew in particular, I feel, is going to be in the news. And he may well, or there may be an announcement regarding Prince Andrew's health. There is news for the US around a natural disaster on the edge of Texas. When I say an earthquake, I always mean one that is significant, so 6 and up, on the border of Texas. Not sure exactly where, but I'm being drawn to Texas, but they're showing me a line. So that makes me feel that it is the border of Texas. A lot of volcanic action that starts to kick off, and that is not just volcanoes that are active, this is volcanoes that have been inactive for some time. And if I go to the Middle East, I am being shown that there is going to be, in Israel in particular, people taking to the streets and maybe mass arrests for those that are standing up against Netanyahu. That's about it for now. But I want to finish on this note, which I feel is a really nice saying that I heard. The more that you raise your own vibration, you will notice the people that are drawn to you being kinder and being more considerate, because your vibration and your energy is affecting those around you. So even when we feel we have no power, it's our energy and our work within that gives us the power that we need. So maybe take that on board at the moment, because so many people are being incredibly negative, and I have found that very difficult to deal with, and I did react this week. I'm not going to lie. This week's been quite tricky for me on social media, and I've been triggered by people being negative about my voice. So I need to take my own advice, don't I? But just try and raise your energy every day. And if something bad happens, and it's not, it's bad, but you're triggered by it and it makes your day difficult, I always say, and today is a day, I think I'm recording this on the 22nd of April, and I've had a really shitty morning just because something happened in my personal life. Nothing major, nothing traumatic, nothing that I'm going to be bothered about tomorrow. And I said to myself, well, if that's the worst thing that can happen to me today, I'm not doing too badly. So remember that. If you can repeat that, it will help. All right, my loves, it's been a pleasure. I will see you all next week. Don't forget to look at the tickets for the group events I've got going on by myself and the ones with Laurie. And I will see you all next week. Take care.